You must be sitting at the door listening, huh? Item 19.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 19 is concerning the process for approving proclamations. It was council's interest to have this item come back before the city council as part of codifying within the council member handbook. There had been some additional comments by the city council with regards to sponsorship and things of that order. Mrs. Hildreth is designated for staff report, and after framing that, if there's anything she wishes to add, she's welcome to.
Thank you, Mr. Lawless, Mayor, members of council. At its meeting on July 16th, the City Council approved a proclamation approval process, which requires that all proclamations first be approved by a majority of the council prior to being issued. At the request of a council member, on September 3rd, 2013, the matter of the proclamation approval process was brought back to the council for clarification and further consideration. During the discussion, the concept of also requiring council member sponsorship of all proclamations was discussed, with direction given to staff to bring back the process for further consideration and codification in the City Council's procedural handbook. Codification in the handbook would be appropriate in Section 4, Council Requests from the Public. Staff proposes adding paragraph F, Proclamation Approval Process, which would read as follows. Section F, Proclamation Approval Process. All proclamations of the City Council shall be placed on a council agenda for consideration by the council and must be approved by 3 affirmative votes prior to being issued. With that, staff recommends that the City Council consider the process for approving proclamations and give direction to staff to codify same in Section 4, Council Requests from the Public, paragraph F, Proclamation Approval Process. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, for discussion here.
Who has to bring this back? Was it you, Brian?
That was direction of the council.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I'll let you go and then I'll pipe in.
So, I kind of like Pete's idea about having sponsorships.
It was my idea originally.
Whoever's idea. So I came up with some language here. Maybe someone else will have other ones, or it can be tweaked or whatever. So all proclamations must be submitted at least 72 hours before noon on Thursday before the next council meeting to be considered for approval by the City Council. All received proclamations are to be scanned and emailed to all council members within 1 business day of being received. Each council member will have until noon on Thursday before the next council meeting to contact the city manager's office to sponsor submitted proclamations. Proclamations receiving 2 sponsors will be placed on the next council agenda as a consent calendar item. Those not receiving a sponsor will be disregarded. So it can be 1 sponsor, 2 sponsors, whatever the will of the council is. So that's kind of what I have there.
So you're saying the Monday at noon prior to, which is what our policy is in the first place for any agenda item, right? And then we would have till Thursday prior to print of either giving our thumbs up or some thumbs down of sponsorship. And then you're saying either, I'm sorry. I expect this thing to do its job, but I guess it doesn't. And then if it gets, you're saying we should have a process of whether we're requiring 1 sponsorship to bring it to council, 2 sponsorships, or 3 sponsorships. And then once it gets to council, they will take a vote of 3 to approve.
Right. I mean, so I don't know that. I spoke with the city attorney. There might be issues. It's kind of clouded area with 3. So keeping it at 1 or 2 sponsors would probably be
I guess the good thing with 3 would be you wouldn't even have to put it on the agenda, for consent calendar, because if you had 3 sponsors, it's automatically going to,
Then you're making a decision outside the meeting. You can't
right,
do
but
that.
but it's a ceremonial thing.
Once the council's deciding something, it
Right.
needs to be subject to
That's
the
why you
Brown
can
Act.
only do 1 or 2.
Right.
Okay. Trying to speed it up.
I understand.
I'm more than willing to entertain other ideas or.
I like it, it's good, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, so no matter how we do it, you're still a month away from getting something read. I mean, because if you bring it in from there, and then it goes on the consent calendar, and then it goes to be approved at the next meeting, you're at best 3 weeks away from getting any, and 2 council meetings away from getting anything read. Is that pretty much a fair assessment?
Well, you would have the option if you approved it that night of reading it that night, but then people don't know whether or not it's actually, they won't know whether they're going to have their proclamation until the council decides on it that night. So you could avoid the extra meeting that way, though.
Yeah, you'd have to move the proclamation probably to the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know many people that know exactly when that's going to be. Even our
takes
city
away
staff
some of
don't
the-
know when our.
I can't take some of the stuff away. Well, I don't know.
Let's hear from Councilman McCracken.
I don't have any constructive input into this. I don't think the council should be voting on proclamations.
Shouldn't be what?
Hmm?
I didn't hear you.
I said I do not agree with putting the proclamations on the council agenda for approval. So my position right now, I haven't heard any convincing argument why we should even have a policy that states they got to come before the council. I think all we've done is delayed the process, and it's worked for 100 years. I don't see why we're changing, but
It has? Yes. It has?
We don't do that.
I made the suggestion on sponsorship. I will tell you that I'm not going to sponsor a proclamation because I do not want to risk the chance of being voted down on a proclamation. So if you want to put that rule in, that's fine. It's just understand I'm not going to sponsor a proclamation.
Great.
I think this is nothing more than a way to divide the council on proclamation issues. And I think it's unnecessary and a waste of effort. That's my position. I have not heard a convincing argument as to why we're even going this route. The council considered it. We put it on there that it takes 3 votes. Fine, it takes 3 votes. You figure out what you want to do with it.
Well, maybe we just leave it like it is then. Maybe it just requires a sponsor or 2 sponsors, and it goes on the consent calendar, and if it's something's time sensitive, then we'll just have to make a special issue that night of that one and have it read that night. Perfect example is that Relay for Life one.
Your Honor, if I may be permitted a question of the city attorney.
Sure.
Does a proclamation qualify as an emergency action for the council?
No?
Thank you.
Does that prohibit us from acting on it that night?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, it depends on what policy you're going to adopt. As of now, you just need 3 votes. You could vote on, you have a few on the agenda tonight. You could vote on those tonight. And
So they don't have to be emergencies, we can just do it.
well, I think that is it for
Well, they're
approval
already
tonight? What was
agenda.
let me see what the actual, I don't know how they were put on.
Okay, I think they're consent calendar items.
No, they're on consent, but I don't know what the specific recommendation was. Yeah, this just actually considers the approval, so once you approve it, it's approved, according to this. So they would be approved, the ones, for instance, the ones on tonight, if approved, are approved tonight.
So really, all you're really doing is when you're going to read them.
Right, that was my point. I mean, that's why you could have a process where you do the sponsorship, put them on, and then they're effective the minute you voted on
I
them.
gotcha. And some you could read that night, and some you could just wait and read them 2 weeks later, right? Because they've already been approved.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
So
That's
we
true.
could move proclamations to
People
the
read
end of
them.
consent calendar and do them right before public hearings.
Yeah, you can, it's, the mayor can, I mean, you guys can decide where you want to put it.
There's a fix.
So give me a motion.
Okay, well, motion just, I guess really the only thing we're changing is whether or not we're going from one or two sponsors then, right? Isn't that all we're really doing then?
I think as it reads, you don't need a sponsor at all. You just need a request.
No, you gotta have, Don't we have to have one sponsor?
No, that was the late, you guys had given general direction to prepare something to that effect, but I guess it was unclear whether to actually implement that, so it was brought back, that was my understanding.
But even a request.
So it hasn't actually been implemented as a policy yet. That was what was going to be on for
But a
tonight for
requ-
discussion.
A request by itself is ostensibly a sponsorship anyway.
Well, not by a council member.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're
Right,
saying.
right, sponsoring by the
Oh,
council
I
member.
got you,
So
okay.
there was always, you always had to have at least one council member.
I got
That was
you.
usually, well, almost always the mayor,
Right.
who decided whether to put it on the agenda or not.
I see.
So Well, so there's always been essentially one sponsor. It was the mayor, so the council could decide, it could be one sponsor, that could be anybody on the council, or make it two sponsors. I'd probably prefer one.
I think that's the fairest one.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So really, all we're doing is just codifying what we've pretty much already said. All right? Pretty much. We're not modifying it, are we? Now we know that even though there's this process, we can, if it's if it's something that is more time sensitive, we can go ahead and approve it.
Well, we would have to alter where
sorry,
you would
go
do
ahead.
the proclamations. If you wanted to do proclamations in the agenda
Right.
after consent calendar, then you would need, then you would need to alter that. So if you were looking to speed it up, because I would like to speed it up.
Right,
To me, it would be nice to be able to, if someone brings something on there.
sure.
And it's approved, the proclamation's ready to go that night. But it would alter the other council handbook item, which is the agenda.
Order of business will need to
Yeah.
be addressed. The other issue too, I think staff is going to want clarification on how sponsorship is to occur. Because I think Vice Mayor Ward raised it as if, the office, the city clerk's office or city manager's office is still going to receive all proclamation requests, which then will go out and with a request for sponsorship, or if actually it needs to go to, via directly the council members and then to staff. And I think that needs to be addressed in the policy so that everybody has a clear understanding of the process. Is that, yeah, that's what
I
city clerk,
suspect-
deputy city clerk's saying over there.
I mean, when they came in before, did they go to staff then to the mayor, or did they go?
Yeah, they generally come through staff to the mayor.
But we have seen proclamation requests go directly to members of council. We have seen that, where thankfully they've been submitted to staff. But there are times where those requests come not through staff.
Well, to me, that you got your sponsor, I mean, it would just go on the agenda.
You can allow both, don't
Yeah,
get
just
me
allow
wrong. I
both,
think you just
right.
want to spell it out so that there's an understanding, so staff understands when something has been sponsored by a council member.
Well, I don't want to deny any council member's ability to be able to put something on the agenda. So if a council member wants to bring forward a proclamation on their own, essentially they're the sponsor, and it would go on the agenda just like.
Yeah,
Right, right. So, well, that's usually what happens, so.
so really that's how we've been doing it so far. So basically, we're not changing that either, then, is what we're really doing. We're just clarifying that how we have been doing it is okay.
What they're asking is that maybe you put that in the language or whatnot, so.
I just want it clear.
Yeah, that's fine, but it's not a change of policy, it's just we're clarifying what we've already, that we're reaffirming what we've been doing. The only thing we're asking for is that anything that goes on the agenda has at least one councilman sponsor. That's really the only thing we're changing.
And I think that the deadline is a good idea for those things that are received directly by the city clerk's office and then need to go out for sponsorship, because that way they have a clear idea of when to receive it.
But we already have a deadline, we just haven't been following it, apparently.
Well, you'll need it especially though with needing the
I'm with
additional
you.
sponsorship.
So my
So-
point is, we're not changing much. It doesn't sound like we're changing, anything.
Well, and the first, here's what I could see happening. All 5 council members say I'll sponsor, well, all 4 council members will say I'll sponsor that, and then,
Just take the first one.
yeah,
Yeah.
first come, first serve, or whatever, so.
Okay.
So,
Does that work, Patrice? Okay.
Maybe repeat it, Patrice, what did you?
Okay, I'm just wondering with regard to those proclamations, I know there was a discussion when there's a proclamation and you're wanting it to go and be read the same evening that it's approved? Is that what I'm hearing?
But you treat it the same, we would pull it out as a special action and say, okay, we're doing this thing, and then, but this one, we'd like to move it forward and read it tonight, so.
Just in those circumstances where it's urgent, so it's not,
Where like Relay for Life doesn't do us any good to
Standard.
read it 2 weeks from now.
okay.
I would probably I just probably rearrange the agenda, because to me, that would be
But
I
you
mean,
could-
if you're gonna approve them and you're gonna speak to them right then, you might as well
So they'll be sponsored, not only are they sponsored, they'll be prepared. That's, I think, what
Okay,
you're getting
so
at,
that-
right?
that's
You're
what
gonna
I'm
have them
getting at,
prepared.
because it's special paper, and so we're just then going to assume they're all going to be approved, and we'll prepare them on the special paper with the seal, and then just those that aren't approved, we'll just disregard.
Right.
And then, so if that's the case also, I would like to discuss the order of business, because we'll have to bring that back. That's approved via resolution, and it's also in the council's handbook, so we'll have to bring that back for amending.
Which is okay, because you guys can, you still have the ability, that's just the regular order, you still have the ability to move things around when you need to. So for
I don't-
tonight, for instance, you don't have to have it set that way.
I don't know that you even, need the handbook back, bring the handbook back for that, because
Yes, we
we can
do.
just,
No, I think we do.
all right, whatever you want to do. So I guess to recap, all we've really done is just reaffirm the deadline is the deadline, and that any proclamation has to have at least one sponsor even to make it on the agenda. That's all we've really done.
Well, and if there's multiple sponsors, it'll be the first one that
And
responded.
And if it's an urgent matter, that
Right.
it can be, read that night. So it's 4 things, so I guess that we're kind of reaffirming there.
Well, that I don't even think, that can just be done. I think
Okay.
that's already.
So it's
okay.
3 things, and we really haven't changed anything, just reaffirmed pretty much everything that we've already been doing.
With time. Go ahead.
So, I make a motion that we change the proclamation approval process to read, all proclamations must be submitted at least 72 hours before noon on the Thursday before the next council meeting to be considered for approval by the city council. All received proclamations are to be scanned and emailed to all council members within 1 business day of being received. Each council member will have until noon on the Thursday before the next council meeting to contact the city manager's office to sponsor submitted proclamations. Proclamations receiving 1 sponsor will be placed on the next council agenda as a consent calendar item. Those not receiving a sponsor will be disregarded. There probably should be some language to the first sponsor.
If multiple sponsors are received, the first
first
yeah, the
sponsor
first
will
council
be-
member
Just
to
Just
respond.
respondent will be considered the original
works.
sponsor.
Okay, we have a motion.
Wow. I got a second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. I'm sorry.
That was a second.
Motion carries 3-1.
Can you guys please speak up? You sound like you're at a poker table up there. Nobody can hear you.
Doing the best we can with the equipment we got. Mine's right.